Hey folks, welcome to the latest Redbubble Talks, Photography, How You Capture the Moment. We have 4 incredible speakers tonight for you, Ben Capp, Mala McDonald, Pixels and Nicole Reed. So without further ado, let's get started. First up is Ben Capp. Travelling the world to gain his experience, Ben has had many different opportunities arise to help him become the talented photographer he is. He not only shoots on a commercial level, but he creates events and projects focusing around his photography and capturing the moment. So please put your hands together and welcome Ben.
Hi everyone. I took a tablet a couple of hours ago to stop me being nervous. I think I'll take 2 next time. So I'm going to talk about My Dad's My Mate, which is a personal project that I do about fathers and sons. Funny that. But before I do that, I want to just tell you a little bit about me and how I got to shooting this project. Bless you. I went to Photography Studies College for 3 years, straight out of high school, and then sort of had thoughts about what I really wanted to do with my life, so I thought I was in a lot of my friends' folios, so I thought I'd study drama at VCA for 6 months. I was really horrible at that. And when I was doing that, I was working in a retail store on Chapel Street and contemplating life. I wasn't meant to be in there, but I was filling in for someone that was sick, and a guy came in and I started talking to him. It just so happened that he worked on a cruise ship that was docked in at the port. So 4 weeks later I was working on a cruise ship sailing out of LA, doing a whole lot of photography. Here's proof of that. That's me in front of the Titanic staircase background on the one of 2 formal nights every week. And I feel like I look about 10 years older than I am now, and that is a big dirty flavour saver on that chin. Horrible. Anyway, after that, fell in love, moved to London with a girl that I met on the ship. In the first sort of week or 2 there, I refused to do anything that wasn't photography. So I didn't want to work in any bars or anything like that. I just really wanted to do something to do with photography. So I went down to the local photography shop in Soho, and there was this quite tall Australian chap talking on the phone, and he hung up, and I just said, "I'm Ben, I'm your new assistant, what are we shooting?" And so he said, "All right, cool, let's go have a coffee." And then a week later we were shooting, or maybe a couple of weeks later, we were shooting Paul McCartney, and that sort of set the tune. I had to fill in for Keith Richards there because Keith was in New York, and I was the same height apparently. He's very heavy, Paul. Anyway, so from there he introduced, not Paul, this other guy, lovely guy Tyson. He introduced me to another sort of 5 or 6 photographers that I ended up assisting for the next 4 years, sort of travelling around the world, shooting some amazing stuff and working with some amazing people. Then I decided to come home after about 4 years. So I was away for 6 years, including the cruise ship and that stuff. And then I came home, and after doing all those cool jobs, got a little bit depressed because instead of flying to LA working on Stella McCartney lingerie shoots, I was driving to Rosebud and shooting a pool fence. You can understand why that could get a little bit depressing. So I started a project called My Dad's My Mate. I heard a statistic that only 3 out of 10 men were close to their fathers in Australia, which I thought was pretty crazy because my dad's my best buddy. So, and all of my mates are their best mates as well. So I started shooting fathers and sons that are mates, and before I shoot them, I get them to write sort of maybe 1,000 words about why they love their dad, which they're a little bit hesitant to do at the start because, you know, most of these guys have never written anything really that emotional before. It's like, "Do you love your dad, man?" It's like, "Yeah, man, fucking love the guy, he's awesome." But can you write 1,000 words? It'll take me 6 months, and it usually does. But what's beautiful is that it's quite poignant because what goes down on paper sort of stays on paper, and it's not just something that's said in the sort of heat of the moment. So everything, all the stories on the website are really quite beautiful. He didn't really write too much because he's only 4 and he can't really write, but I just love that photo. So yeah, this is the project. That's my best bud Joe and his dad Brian. Brian likes to have his top off a lot. Yeah, even it's 2 degrees outside, he'll take his top off to go outside and get the newspaper in the morning. He's a funny man. But anyway, what I really wanted to say is, for me, capturing the moment, what really helps me is getting to know the people that I'm shooting. So whether it's a commercial job or it's something like this, if I've got 5 minutes to talk to the person I'm shooting, then I will try and build a rapport and, really try and get to know them as much as I can. And it really, really helps the situation. I really want to just get to one last photo before I finish right up. What? Okay, I'll keep talking. So this guy here, this guy is on the right. He was in Afghanistan serving over there, and one of my mates was over there with him, and he saw the My Dad's My Mate thing, and he started emailing me saying, I really want to do something with my dad. And so he probably sent me about 5 or 6 emails saying, I really want to be a part of it. And so I got him to write the story. It was quite beautiful. He never really got sort of close with his old man until he did go in the army and had that sort of the one thing he could relate to with his dad. And now they're super best buddies. They flew down from Brisbane for the shoot, which was really great. Obviously that's the War Memorial. And his dad came up to me and just gave me a massive hug and said thanks so much. A sort of a similar story with this guy. These are one of my good buddies who, he was the first one we shot for it, and I said to him, are you mates with your dad? And he's like, yeah, but I haven't really seen him, much in the last sort of year, because he's gone through a little bit of depression himself, and he's had a breakup with his wife, and things weren't going too well, so he said it might be nice to do it. So his dad made a special trip up from Warrnambool, which he doesn't really leave that often, and they got there, we did the shoot, and it was, and I'd read the story, and if you get it on the website, mydadsmymate.com.au, read this one before anything, because it's beautiful. And his dad afterwards shook my hand and gave me a hug and was crying and said, that's the most beautiful and closest moment I've had with my son nearly ever. So it kind of just gave me goosebumps, as it gives me goosebumps right now. And I sort of knew that I was on to a bit of a good thing. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say, really. That's My Dad's My Mate project, and I get to know him before I shoot him.
So next up is Mala McDonald, a multi-talented photographer who captures food and people with equal passion. Constantly putting thought and passion into all her shots, please welcome Mia to the stage.
Okay, thank you so much. The elephant in the room is my crutches. I fell off a ladder on Monday and on a photo shoot, getting too excited, and I have pulled the ligament in it, so I apologise for that. Firstly, I'd like to thank Toby and everyone at Redbubble Balloon. What am I doing? Painkillers are involved. And yeah, no, it's a really great opportunity, and I love hearing other photographers speak. It's quite rare for us to hear that insight, so it's a real privilege to hear everyone on the stage today. So the brief was to talk about capturing a moment, and photography is all about capturing the moment. But for me, I guess I create the moment more than capture it. This image is almost one of the only images that I feel that I truly just captured the moment. Without much control apart from my composition. My camera was set to auto and I was drinking cocktails in Venice Beach. And I just took one image and wandered off. I didn't look at the back of the camera or anything. And I guess, it was just one of those lucky moments, which is a beautiful thing about photography, is luck. Capturing the perfect moment is more about creating the perfect moment for me. It's the ability to know what you're looking for and to pay attention to the minute details and to manipulate the scene to tell the story. Even if it's simply by controlling the composition, aperture, angle. Although still candid in nature, this image was very much controlled. I noticed the morning sunlight coming through the window and I asked the subject to wander into it, but there's a sense of candidness in that. But it's almost like not being afraid of controlling that as well. This is, it's my sister here. This is our parents on an afternoon walk. It's their usual get up for an afternoon walk. And there was this beautiful similarity with them and this tree. And, bringing them into it, yes, it feels candid, but it's capturing that moment or controlling it, so there's kind of a truth in it. And even Prince in the corner gets fame. I shoot on film and digital. I shoot all my personal work on film because it allows you not to look at your shots. So you do become a photographer and you do really take control of the situation. You're not relying on, trying and trying again. You have to really nail it in that one moment. It's about intuition and spontaneity, paying attention to what is going on around you and deciding in that moment what you will leave out and most importantly, what you'll leave in. It's about manipulating the truth, and that's what you're deciding to keep in the frame. This was on tour with a band, and I just noticed this scenario of men around this kind of very female, or what deemed is female kind of moment. There's real gentleness in it, but it's a very masculine world. This image is a current collaboration that I'm working on with an artist called Kathy Tipping. She's tapestried those digital effects onto their faces by hand. My work is intensely orchestrated. It's through camera techniques and rigorous casting and directing of cues and facial expressions that I kind of create the mood. This image, I put an ad in the paper saying Women Wanted, spelt with a Y. So it's a feminist work, and I was really interested to see who applied, and that's the project. We had 390 applicants, and it was just in those crappy Moreland newspapers. And no one knew what they were going to do, but this was a mother and daughter, and they sat there for 40 minutes, probably acting like the happy mother and daughter scenario that they wanted to portray. They were so bored by the end of it that this is their facial expressions that I ended up using. So as I said, it's almost like the hallmark of my practice is an intensely self-aware impression of people that blurs the boundaries between fact and fiction and reality and reflection. And I'm okay to know that photography is really not reality. I guess you could say that I unashamedly manipulate people when I photograph them. I love taking people's portraits, but I create the scenario for them to perform to the camera in their best of their ability. Even if it's bands, obviously, it's funny with bands, they always send me a reference saying, we just want to look like we're hanging out. And I'm like, yeah, but you've got a stylist and your record label and you've got 4 makeup artists, probably not going to look like that. So I kind of go to that other extreme level, and I'm not afraid to kind of curate it. And this is in the Pink Lakes, the Pink Rocks in just outside of Bendigo. Location plays a big part in my work, and their clothes are all curated to match the landscape as well. This is a portrait series I'm working on about people with their on-stage and off-stage personas. So it's the same woman, and this is her job at night, and this is just her in the everyday. The person that gets the most shock about these images is the subjects themselves. It's quite confronting for them to see this image. Just another photo. This is a portrait of Courtney Barnett. It was created to feel relaxed and in the moment, but of course every element is considered. The blue in her shirt, which is from my wardrobe, is matching the background, so all the bits of rubbish in the couch. It's all, it's all curated, but it's made to feel like it's captured in the moment. By rigorously planning what you desire, you're almost allowing the moment to happen naturally, because you're not concerning yourself with the periphery, as if you've already got that under control. It's this relationship that I'm so interested in between the photographer and the subject. This is the first photo shoot Courtney had really had, and so and she's incredibly shy, and so it was very confronting for her. But me not worrying about the periphery allowed this relationship to happen. Again, just being aware of allowing your subject the freedom to perform or be themselves. So I spent 40 minutes tidying up his incredibly beautiful looking studio, but again, it had bits of plastic and had football stickers and all those kind of things. So I pulled all of that back, and then he stepped into his kind of stage. And it is always a stage. As soon as you feel a camera, held up, you're aware of it. You can't deny that as a photographer. Okay, this video is for my master's project. I've just finished my master's last year, and I purposely didn't tell each of the actors what we were really doing. And I said, I just want you to do it in one take, and I want to see what evolves. I had 2 white leotards, and I was hoping they'd nail it the first time, but I'll play it to you and I'll tell you what actually occurred. So I have moved into video, I guess more cinematography and kind of concept work. So it's that magic that can happen. So, relying on your subjects and having trust in them to kind of make this performance happen was so exciting for me, because I was hoping, I didn't know what to expect. And obviously it's a very intimate thing to do, but they really, they're very much amateur. She was just a student at RMIT, and I just asked her to do it. And this is and my auntie actually. So it's the first take. This is where it got quite interesting. I couldn't quite see what they were doing, and she spent probably 15 minutes painting the woman. And as soon as she moved away from her body, I realised she'd left a massive white area where her fanny is. So it became this kind of, and I'm like, okay, we had to have that conversation. This is part of it. You have to do actually paint that area. So this is the second take. You can imagine what happens. She does finish off painting the woman, and as I said, this is based on a real story of a mother having to paint her daughter's leotards brown to match her skin colour. So it's a commentary on that. Yeah, that's enough. We are talking about in the moment, and those moments where you really have to work on, trust your instincts and trust your intuition. A recent time where my intuition was abruptly jolted into gear was an exciting call from Bloomberg Publishing in New York. My brief was to photograph Heston Blumenthal's new restaurant, and I was the first photographer allowed access. I had 5 luxurious hours. The brief was to capture the 10 major dishes, 3 portraits of Heston, and various details of the space. This was a really big deal for me, and I spent a lot of time with the editor mapping out our 5 hours. That sounds like a long time, but by the time you set up your lights for each setup, time disappears. And so I was really aware of the limitations that I had. On arriving to Crown Casino, or Crown, where this restaurant is, I waited for half an hour for his media assistant, and she abruptly told me that I had 45 minutes. An editor doesn't care how long you have to get the job done. And so you can't, you just have to get on with the job. And so this was a moment where all my planning was in my mind, but it just had to be about capturing those moments. And so I guess I just stopped intuitively, and I didn't get to set up my lighting, and I didn't get to capture the portraits that I wanted. But because I'm not aware of my camera techniques, because I really know those things now, it became much easier, because then you're just telling a story. You're not worrying about your lighting. I didn't look at my camera once, because you need to know those things, almost like breathing. And so then I rapidly photographed an intensely intense amount of shots. I got most of the meals and 3 portraits. And I ended up having quite a stressful and very sweaty experience, and Heston offered me to have lunch with him, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I just have to go. So I didn't get to eat all these, fancy food that he does cook. But he appreciated the quickness of it and me getting the job done, because obviously he's got better things to do. He actually is in the kitchen most nights cooking, which was surprising. I had this shot set up prior to the shoot, and I really wanted to capture him in a silhouette against this background, because I Google mapped the hotel and I knew what time the lighting would be setting, so I knew what time I knew the lighting scenario, so I knew that I'd be able to capture this type of silhouette. So those things were all planned. But that's coming to an end of what I'm talking about. But as Henry Cartier-Bresson said, who is, the hero of the decisive moment, to photograph is to hold one's breath. When all things converge to capture fleeting reality, it's at that precise moment that mastering an image becomes a great physical and intellectual joy. And that great moment when you know what F5.6 means and you don't have to worry about it is that joy for me. And that's all.
Okay, so up to our next speaker. Please welcome Nella, otherwise known as Pixels, to the stage. Nella captures street art and graffiti artists in their environment like no one else I've ever seen. She also captures their work in a way that makes you understand that it isn't just about tags and vandalism, but it's a unique art form in its own right. Please put your hand together for Pixels.
I've got a few images to show you guys tonight from my portfolio. A lot of the work I do fits into 2 categories, illegal and legal. Illegal. But that's what graffiti is, and street art is a part of graffiti. It all comes from the same place, and people building their skills and choosing to display them differently. I don't have any opinions on either one being good or bad, or the right way or the wrong way. I think it's all a different technique, and that's what inspires me to be able to take photos of the incredible things that writers or artists create. So I broke my little presentation for you guys down into 2 different categories. This is really odd. The first one's people. Obviously people make up they're the element of what I photograph. Capturing the moment's about watching, waiting for the image to occur in front of me. Responding with the subject, as Benny says, if you don't have a relationship with a person, it becomes very difficult to be able to convey what they're feeling or what they're doing. The next element is just waiting for the right opportunity. So being there and having your camera ready. This particular shot of an artist called Idol from Perth, I may have waited about 15 minutes in the same spot just to try and get the aerosol coming out of the can in that light. And every time I shot it, I'd check my camera and I missed it. So I'd wait. He never knew that I was trying to get that shot, and then I show him the shot at the end of the day, he's like, I love it. And that's what photography and capturing a moment is about for me. So if the artist is happy with the image that I am able to give them, that makes me incredibly happy. Sometimes it's on the fly, so wandering the streets, under bridges and all that kind of stuff, and you're not even expecting it, and someone grabs something out of their bag and starts drawing on something. It's kind of inspiring. They don't really look maybe sometimes at where they're positioning it, and I'll see it, and I've got a split second to jump in there and bang out a shot. And hopefully sometimes it turns out like this, which is actually one of my favourite shots. Then there's other little bits and pieces. So you might be out and about and someone else is taking photos of a panel on a train. And in amongst that, you see the light going on and you manage to capture something like this, which is an absolute happy accident. So another photographer next to me is shooting the panel, the light comes off, it hits the guy, he moves forward. you know, these things are amazing. And then there's shots like this one. This is an artist from Melbourne named Mayonnaise, or Mayo. And he recently painted a hotel down in, I'm not from here, Fitzroy, in Fitzroy. And he asked me to come along. And this was one of the shots from that shoot, which he saw an error on his wall and he jumped back up to fix it. And in the moment of him fixing it, on the corner of the stairs where I was standing, the image just came to life. So I guess when I'm shooting people, I'm really just looking at what angles, where can I get a shot that's going to make them happy, what's going to make them see something more in what they do. So this image was a really awkward one. You got to get up close and personal sometimes with people. And I lay on the ground and do whatever I need to get the shot that I want. And sometimes you get something a bit beautiful. But I guess the thing that matters most to me about capturing a moment when it comes to graffiti is the respect that I hold for a writer or an artist. And that's building a rapport with them, being able to speak with them and make them understand that I'm not there to try and bust them or anything else. I'm there to document the beauty in what they do. And part of that's the passion that I have for graffiti. I don't paint, no talent. And I guess if there's one message that I could say about photographing people who are painting, it's actually ask them if it's okay. Some people don't want to be photographed as they're doing their bit. And so the second part is places. Obviously a lot of the work that I photograph is also on walls. So I try to find a way that makes a mural or a tag or a piece on a wall look different to how I've seen other people photograph it. And again, I'm trying to make something beautiful with the environment around it. Sometimes it takes a while to sit out there and try and get the right shot. Sometimes you're standing in the rain. It doesn't matter as long as you get something like this at the end of it. And sometimes it's to show the scale, because a lot of the time the images that I see are just a picture on a wall, and it's just a wall straight on. Sorry. If I can get a different perspective and include the environment around it, you can see how amazingly talented people are to be able to paint at this magnitude. I'm a bit obsessed with nighttime at the moment, so I take a lot of nighttime photography. It might just be because I have no friends, and I just hang out a lot on my own. And like Mia had said before, it's more about knowing your camera and your equipment comes instinctively, so you know and you can see the shot that you want to create before it actually gets into the body of the camera. Sometimes daytime, crazy clouds and things come over. I'll have pegged a location in my head and know that I want to go back and revisit that place. And so you sort of can incorporate the environment really well into your walls. So that's kind of it for me. I don't know if that's 10 minutes or not. It's really awkward being up here with a microphone. I hope you enjoy the photos and thanks for having me.
Okay, so Nicole Reed is our lucky last for this evening, but in no way let me make you think that she is the least. The incredible photographer has the ability to capture people and architecture like no other. Having photographed people for several publications, personal projects and trips galore, she comes to us with a wealth of knowledge. Please welcome Nicole.
Thanks, Toby. Thanks for having me. Redbubble, thank you. Ben Capp is my flatmate, and we actually both took a tablet before we came here today to settle our nerves. It's worked for me really well. I've broken my talk up into 3 sections, but this is me. This is my Instagram. This is my morning and my night. My sections are being in the right place at the right time, i.e. luck, always be ready. I got a new camera maybe a year ago, which was an Olympus. I'm just going to give it a bit of a spruik. I found carrying my 5D around on the street quite laborious and found that I wasn't I saw so many moments on my travels and in everyday life which I thought, man, that would make a great photo. But because I'm too lazy to carry around a 5-kilogram camera, always missed it. But now with my new camera, my Olympus, it's a lot smaller, a lot lighter, a lot quicker, a lot better under low light. So I'm finding that capturing these moments are much easier for me. So I'm going to go through a few shots where I was just lucky to be in the right time at the right place, and I was really quick with my equipment. This is in Las Vegas. I ran away really quickly after taking this photo. I didn't hang around very long, and I didn't pay any attention to it for years until I was cleaning up my computer, going through all my old photos from Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and I saw this and I went, wow, this is actually a really good moment I've captured. This is another one, just being in the right time at the right place. This is in Fitzroy in Gertrude Street. I was just walking back from a job and saw him in there, so I took the photo. This is a really funny one. This is Mike Giant. I'm sure you all know who he is. I was on assignment with Eddie Zammit, who's in the crowd somewhere over there for T-World. For over a week, I followed Joshy D and Mike Giant around while they were out here taking photos. And this is Mike getting his hair cut. And he was just having a moment there, and I turned around and I took the photo, and it ended up on the front of V&A magazine. There's a double-page spread in T-World and a few other places. So again, it was just luck that I was there at that time, and I think it's a really beautiful photo. This is a really good example of how well my new camera operates under low light and being able to capture moments. This is Hong Kong in the dead of night. For anyone who knows anything about the technical specifications, this is probably 1/8 of a second handheld. So that's really helped me capturing a lot of night shots without having to carry around a tripod, which allows me to be really quick. This is another one from Japan. I was a little bit bored, so I went for a walk down to the beach and saw this, got this shot. This is Japan as well. This is Thailand. This is another one of my favourite shots, which I took again on assignment with T-World. We were doing a shoot across the road with, I can't remember who it was with, Cookies and Cream. And I turned around and saw this, took a quick photo in between shots, and then turned around and continued shooting the rest of the job. And that's one of my favourite shots from New York. Just pure luck. My next category is similar to what Nala was talking about, is being able to tell when something's going to happen and waiting for it to happen. Being a creep, sometimes you can stand in the same position for 5 minutes with your camera up waiting for something to happen, which can look a bit dodgy sometimes. But yeah, don't be afraid to do that. This was on the road back from Adelaide, and in the back left-hand corner there's a massive bushfire, which turned out to be really bad. It was around New Year's Eve this summer, and we'd pulled over because I wanted to take some photos of the smoke, and I knew that this person on the bike was coming up behind us, so I waited and waited and waited to get this shot. This is another one. I was actually taking a photo of the photo booth, and people being polite like they are in Japan, she stood there and waited until I took the photo, not knowing that she was in my photo as well. This photo is probably one of my all-time favourite photos. Again, it's a handheld shot in the middle of the night, and we had walked past the cinema a few times, and the prostitute down the end was standing there for quite some time, and the guy who's talking to her was wandering up and down the street. He was waiting for us to leave before he could approach her, her or him. I stood around the corner and waited and waited and waited until he thought we'd gone, until he finally made his move, and then I got that shot. This is another one from Japan, which again I probably took 20 or 30 photos on rapid fire of these two getting their Coke cans in their kind of traditional Japanese pyjamas. This is from the Patterson project, which I hung around for the week while it was going on, and I spotted this composition and waited and waited and waited without telling them what I was doing until I could get his reflection in the glass with the other artist behind him. These photos are at a carnival. I can't quite remember where it was around Christmas. There were a few people there, but I waited until I got a clear view of the carnival vendors. They look really bored. They were really bored, but I think my shot makes it look way more boring than it actually was. There's another one. This is another one where I was walking. This is in Japan as well. I was walking along the road and I noticed it was a miserable day. It was freezing cold. It was raining, but people were riding their bikes with their surfboard down to the beach. So I waited and waited until someone came past so I could grab a photo. This is in Japan as well. Again, being a creep, taking photos, sleeping in their car. My next category, which is something before I got my smaller camera, which I'm more used to doing, which is creating a moment. I shoot a lot of artists, which are really hard to shoot sometimes, all the time, because I don't like being in front of the camera. Either do photographers. But these moments I've orchestrated down to the finer points. The one of Shock on the balloon was quite a big production. I had people hoisting him up on hoists, and he was leaning on cardboard boxes and all kinds of things. Again, it's another shot that I've orchestrated. This one's a little bit of both. This is a bit of an accident and a bit of orchestration. I did a personal project on soccer fans, football fans during the World Cup, standing in their front yards with flares, and it was a really windy day, and I got some pretty amazing shots of the wind taking the smoke, and that was just an absolute fluke that his face was coming through the smoke like that. Another artist that I've shot that you might know. This is very carefully orchestrated as well, with lots of elements that I felt represented him and he felt represented him. And I think this is my last slide. It is. How have I gone for time? Cool. This is Brett Chan, again with T-World. The whole day I'd spent with Eddie shooting portraits of people for an upcoming exhibition, and a lot of them Actually, all of them previously to this one were in their studios or offices. And I didn't know who Brett was when we turned up to do this. And we got there and he was really stoned. And he thought it would be a fun idea to go running along the beach on Bondi. So, okay, so I ran along and followed him as well. And I got some really great shots. That's just a shot in camera. There's no me putting fake birds or anything in behind him there. But yeah, that was a pretty good moment. And that's it.